Filming a daylight exterior scene on a budget as a filmmaker can be one of the hardest and most daunting things to do if you don't know what you're doing. If you know what you're doing, if you got a couple of little tips that I'm going to be showing you today, it's actually really, really easy. And there's one thing in particular that I want to drill into your brain today that will level you up overnight as a filmmaker. So let's get into it. This was a scene that I shot for a buddy of mine. His name's Zach Carter. He owns a production company called Chapter 2 Media here in Utah. Super cool dude, awesome guy. And it was for his client, Kinetic. And it's like a supplement company. It's like a ketosis sort of thing. I don't know. Anyways, so we were filming this, ice bath scene. And we were given the task to, make it look pretty. That's my task. That's my task, to make it look sexy. So here's like the first thing that I want to really drill into your head. And this is something that this is what separates the good from the great. And it is planning and shooting at specific times. So especially when you're on a budget, you don't have the budget for like a big light or something like that. So what you can control, the big light in the sky, you can control that basically. And you can do that by shooting at a certain time of day. So for example, let me just give you this example here. I knew that we were going to be shooting this house, and my buddy, the director, Zach, asked me, what time do you want to shoot? Do you want to shoot it at the beginning of the day or the end of the day? And I said, I know that it's going to be facing west. The back of the house is facing west, and so all that's facing west. So let's shoot it later in the day. I think we were there about 3 p.m. or something like that. So the sun wasn't really that low in the sky. I didn't need it to be. I didn't need it to be like on the horizon or anything like that. I just needed it low enough so that it was going to be getting underneath that overhang and I could diffuse it. That's the biggest thing. So just as a DP, as a filmmaker, whatever it is, fight for times and explain to the producer, the director, or whatever it is, why you need it to be that time. Because for them, they're thinking of other things than the light. That's your job as the filmmaker, as the cinematographer, is to fight for the image, to fight for the light. And I didn't have to fight for it. My buddy Zach was just like, you tell me what time and we'll do it then. And I was like, sick, you're the man. But there will be productions that you will have to fight for it. And you can just tell them, hey, if we do it at this time, it's going to look like this. If we do it at this time, it's going to look like shit. That's just what it comes down to. So as the cinematographer, that is your job, is to fight for it and explain it. So again, like I said, the cheapest thing that you can do is to just shoot it at a certain time of the day. Just plan for that. And then you can have the light exactly where you need it to be. So let's just look at what I had going on. So we had this ice bath underneath a porch. And the porch was actually, the back of the house was facing west. And the whole porch was open, minus the east side of the wall. That was where the house was at. And so I was given, here's the information. Here's what we've got. And we can either do it, camera looking into the house so that it's like a more daylit scene and like the sun shining onto the girl, and that's totally fine. Or we can look out. I'm almost always going to have the sun be on the backside, the far side of my scene when I'm doing something like this. Again, on a low budget thing, there's plenty of ways to skin a cat, but for a low budget, we're run and gunning, quick sort of thing, I'm going to make it look as best as possible and as simply as possible. So sun here, sun on the west side, we are facing the talent, so we're kind of looking southwest. And you might be saying, Josh, I see a 1200X on the screen. That's not budget. I agree. I totally agree. I had a 1200X with me. I have a 1200X, and so I brought it with me, and it didn't cost us anything for that. So what you can do it's totally the exact same, is you can actually use a gold reflector, like one of those 5-in-1 reflectors. You can use like the gold reflector to get the same thing, basically. There's no difference. So last thing that we were using was a 5-in-1 reflector kit, and those things are like, for like a nice one, like a bigger one, like maybe 50, I don't know, $80 at most or something like that. So you can use the diffusion part of it for here, and then I was using the gold part of it, or I can't, just the white part of it, I can't remember exactly, but that part for the bounce. And then if you had just another gold reflector or something like that, you could be doing the same thing down here, that, and replace the 1200X. So that's all we were doing. All right, so let's just break this all down of what I just showed you from the lighting diagram. So first things first, the 5-in-1 reflector. That is doing everything you see here. It's creating all of that soft light on her face. There's like a little rectangle of light underneath her eye on the near side of the face. All of that soft light, that is coming from that 5-in-1 reflector, and the sun is pushing through that. That's what it is. Now, we did get a little bit lucky, and I was not planning on this, but the sky was a little hazy. And in Utah, that's kind of normal. Like, that definitely happens a lot. So we weren't getting like super crazy peaking, clipping, sunlight in the sky, which was hallelujah, thank goodness. But the sun was still very harsh, and there were little pockets of light that were coming in and out. So we just kept that diffusion 5-in-1 reflector up the whole time. The second thing was we had, like I said, that 1200, and you could use a gold bounce. It would do the exact same thing on this backside over here. And so that's giving you everything. You see her hair, all of that down here, that edge, that all of that's coming from, let's just call it the reflector, because like I said, you literally could use a reflector and it would do the exact same thing. So that's all coming from the reflector. And that's creating all of the shape that we need here. Now, I don't remember exactly on this shot if I did or not, but the other thing that I was doing was I wasn't adding any negative fill. There was plenty there just because how harsh that sun was in that sky. I was NDing down. And so I was getting tons of shape, through all of this here. So the only thing that I did was I actually introduced a bounce, if anything, just to bring those levels a little bit closer. This was a commercial, ad sort of thing. And so I can't have it be too crazy crunchy. So just a little bit of bounce, a little bit of fill just to bring that back up. And I was using the bounce that was from the 5-in-1. It was floppy, and so I was just kind of like laying it on like the Dana Dolly. I was laying it on the seats and stuff. So I just was doing that. Anyways, let me go to this shot just so you can see kind of a different angle of that. But all the same thing. Like, it's all the same technique. We've got the 1200 doing all of this, and that, that edge on her there. And I did that because I wanted to just separate her a little bit from the background. And it doesn't look fake. Like you would still get that in real life, being in a under a porch, and that like the light would still do that. I just wanted to enhance that. And I'm pretty sure like that stuff there is probably, it might be from just the sky. I don't know. Honestly, I might be from the 1200, the bounce, the reflector. But again, 5-in-1 diffusion, doing all that there, and it just created this really nice shape on her face. Now, the trick to all of this is to do I think some people have coined it as like the sun triangle or something like that. But let me get rid of this. The key is to create like a triangle. So again, you're shooting on that the near side of the face in order to create that shape. Again, we're doing this. There's 1,000 ways to do this, but this is a simple, just like, boom, we can pop in, we can easily figure out what we want to do. And again, we don't have like all this gear. And so we're keeping it simple. And this is the way to do it. You have your sun here, and then your camera is going to be on that near side of the face. And so you're creating that triangle by having that sun on the far side of the face. And it's just about placement. Like I said, you have to fight for your image sometimes, and I've done this plenty of times. Like, I can just think of recently, I was on a shoot that we were standing in front of a garage, and I was like, if we can just like shimmy over here and then just angle it like a little bit more this way, we're going to get that shape. And we didn't need it to be like a specific background. I think the director had like an idea, but once we got there and I kind of explained to him why we needed to do it like this, he's like, oh, cool. Yeah, no, okay, let's do it. So just explain, push for it. And again, we had planned all of this for the time wise. And then once we got there, my buddy just asked me, he's like, do you want to shoot looking into the porch or out of the porch? And I was like, let me just, when we get there, I basically knew that I was going to want to shoot out of the porch because that would be on the near side, like I said, and the sun would be on the far side. But just in case, maybe you never know. And because of that, we got all of this. See, it like this is that we're creating layers now, as well as we've got all of this in the deep background, and that sun is backlighting those trees. So you're creating more shape. The fence, it's dark here and it's creating some shape on there. This is totally fine. Like, it's still on the far enough that you were getting shape on all of these different things. Like, if we go to this clip as well, like these trees, all of that sun is like doing, things on that side. You can see, like, if the sun was a little bit lower, we would have gotten some more shadow on there, and that would have been cool, but no worries, whatever. On this pole, like, there's shape, there's shadow there. It's, lighter here. That's what I'm talking about. It's so easy and it's so simple. If we were on the other side, it would have looked like hot garbage, and we would have needed a bigger diffusion, I don't know. It would have been way harder. So keep it simple, fight for that image, shoot using the triangle, shoot using that, it's not the exposure triangle. It's like the cinematic triangle or something like that. I don't know what to call it, but fight for your image. That's free. That's free to do it at a specific time of the day. So use that to your advantage. So if you have any questions, leave them down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.